Hello, my name's Andrea Coleman and I am going to demonstrate for you how to make the Artfelt winter sheep kit. It's a landscape with a snowy background with a sunset. In the kit you will find 15 shades of pure merino wool, fleece and rovings, curly wool, soap, instructions, silk, a piece of foam and a felting needle, and everything you need to make the picture. To start this tutorial, we're going to make a small piece of white felt which we will later on cut our sheep out of. Taking your white fleece, we will pull it apart into approximately 2 halves, and we'll divide that one of the halves into 2 and that again into 2, so you'll have 2 pieces like that. We're going to start and just trap the wool, pull it away and pat it down. And I've done one layer in a horizontal direction, and now I'm going to quarter turn and do exactly the same but going across your fleece. You shouldn't be able to see the bubble wrap underneath. And don't worry, if it's not perfect, most of this will be hidden later on. And then get your soap and water and absolutely saturate it. Then place the thin plastic sheet on top and press down on your fleece. Take your time over this, and then you can put a little bit of the soapy water that you used earlier on top, and you might have to hold it down with the other hand, but rub for 1 minute in this direction, and then you give another quarter turn and another minute like this. Another quarter turn, another minute, and another minute like this. After 4 minutes rubbing, we can pinch your work to see if it's strong enough, and you should be able to pick it up and not be able to pick up individual strands. A lot of this depends on you and how you work. Everybody will be different. If it's very, very soft and easy to pull apart, like the edges, but don't worry about the edges, just do another 2 minutes. It should be enough. Maybe be a bit more forceful this time. So now I'm going to prepare the tree that we will use later. Divide your black fleece in half and reserve the other half for later, and then you'll find some navy blue silk, and we're going to mix the two together by pulling the ends together and then putting it back together and then pulling it apart until they're nicely mixed. And I'm still going to make it a little bit smaller than the size it is. So now I've got about half of that mix with the blue silk, and I'm going to roll it in my hands like this, just in the middle, so both ends are fluffy, and this will create the trunk. And then I'm going to pull little bits of this out and then twist with my fingers and you can do as many of these as you like. And then at the other end, what you can do is just trim these ends off so they're not too fluffy, and this will end up as your tree. I've made the tree, I've twisted the branches with the fibres, and if you wish to make a few extra branches with the bits left over, just twist them in your hands and then add an extra branch or two. Now I'm going to start the first layer of the background of your picture. So using the half of the white that you didn't use before, you set aside, we're going to divide that again in half, and then in half again, and then quarters. And we're going to do something very similar to what we did earlier. I'm going to trap it and pull it just like we did with the sheep, but we're just going to make it much bigger. So I'm going to use this. You've got the measurements in your instructions, and then we are going to do exactly the same with the blue. So I've laid out in a horizontal direction, half white, half blue. I've still got half my white and half my blue left, and just checking there's no gappy bits, and make sure you don't have any gap between your white and your blue. Overlay it a little bit. Now I'm going to start the second layer. I've quarter turned the work, and we're working now with 4 different colours. So you've got your white and your royal blue, but also cornflower and aqua. So I'm going to start with the cornflower, and I'm going to trap it and pull it across like this. And then I will use the royal blue and go over it and do plenty of patting like that. Then I'm going to take my white and I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm just doing one little patch so you don't get bored. And then lastly the aqua at the end. I've completed layer 2 and quarter turned it. You can see there's 4 different bands of colour. So you have your royal blue and your cornflower, white and aqua, and all the colours have mingled a little bit. This will be your sky and this area will be your foreground. In your kit you'll find this selection of merino rovings. Take the turquoise away, we won't use that till later, and then taking the 3 lightest colours we're going to start with those, and I'm just going to pull very small amounts out and place them just where the white and the cornflower meet, and this will take a little while to do, but enjoy it and take your time over this, and we will build it up. Now I've covered an area in the kind of lower part of the sky in the centre, and make sure you cover some of the white as well, and then we can start to introduce some of the other sunset colours. Don't use all your lighter colours, save a little bit for, you might want to go over parts of it. And when you use the orange, just be careful because it isn't really bright. Don't use too much of it. You can see how you can build it up by introducing some of these wonderful colours. Once you've laid out your sunset, we're just going to finish your sky with the cornflower blue and the royal blue and introduce a little bit of navy. I'm going to start with the cornflower just at the edges here and just let it fall. Be very careful when you lay this. You might want to pull it out and drop it if you feel safer like that. And pat things down. And then you can use your royal blue as well. And then you can add a little bit of navy to the very top of your picture. This is one I did earlier, so it looks very slightly different, but I've put the navy blue and the two other blues on, and then you can always add a little bit of purple here and there, and then when you're happy and you're finished, if you want, you can add a little bit of the navy blue silk for a different texture running through, and there's also some lilac as well. When you've completed the sky, we're now ready to start the foreground, and I'm going to start with this pale blue, and we can use the other colours as well for the foreground. Make sure you cover the very lower part of the sky because you don't want to have a white gap. I've covered most of the foreground with this pale blue, and now I'm adding this grey aqua colour to the horizon area, mingling them here and there. And then we can start to, at the lowest end, we can start to add the aqua. Keep patting them down. And then, if you like, you can use this vibrant turquoise as well. Now we've completed the snowy foreground, we can start to put highlights of the reflection of the sunset on the snow. This mixed roving is particularly nice for this area, so you can just put a little bit over, and if you need to, you can always add more of the aqua or the pale blue if you want to make it slightly more subtle. Just taking really small pieces out at a time. Build it up. I've finished the foreground, and now I'm going to put the tree in place that I made earlier, and I'm going to pop it here. And now's a good time if you wanted to make some extra branches on it. Now's the time to do it. And the other thing you might want to do is create a little bit of shade just underneath it. So I've finished the whole landscape of the picture now, and I've added a few more branches to the tree, and so now I'm going to get it absolutely soaking wet, and we're going to repeat what we did at the beginning with the white pre-felt. But I really strongly recommend that you pat it for 15 minutes. So I've put the thin plastic on top, and I'm now just patting down, and I strongly recommend you do it for 15 minutes. So I've patted it for 15 minutes, and then I've rubbed it for 2 minutes in this direction, like that, and then I've half turned it, and another 2 minutes like that, and then 2 minutes like that, and 2 minutes like that. If the thin plastic starts to move with you, with your hands, that's okay. It will sometimes. And then, lastly, you can start rubbing directly on the bubble wrap. If your fibres aren't very strong, turn it over and work as hard as you like on the back, like this, with your thin plastic. When your work is nice and strong, you can rinse it out and put it to dry somewhere. You can also iron it on a wall setting from the back.